Starting a trucking company actually has a proper way of doing it. It is not just go in and throw stuff at a wall and throw stuff in a truck and see if it sticks. That's not exactly how you're supposed to do it. There are steps that you should take to do it properly. I know of individuals that have gotten into trucking absolutely clueless as to what they're supposed to do. They sit behind a truck. They don't even, they put people behind the wheels of the trucks that they've bought through financing, loans, things of that nature, sometimes even cash, depending on the price and depending on their situation. But they didn't do so well. They came in quickly and they left quickly. They didn't have the right approach to being a long time participant in trucking. One mistake a lot of people make in this industry, and then we will get into kind of some foundational steps that you can take to properly set up your trucking company. But one of the mistakes that a lot of people make is the fact that they look at this industry as a get rich quick scheme. Okay. And they do this by thinking that if they get into this industry, it's going to make them a millionaire within a couple months. That doesn't happen. That's very unrealistic thinking. We cannot be sugarcoating this stuff. It's very expensive to run a truck down the road. It's not expensive, it's very expensive. Especially in 2024, where we see inflation at all-time highs throughout our modern history for the USA and Canada, respectively. So it isn't okay for you to go spend so much money on a truck, have these payments that are sometimes between $2,000 and $3,000 per month, depending on what kind of truck you go out and buy, if it's new or relatively new, okay? And you think that you can just go and take random loads without understanding where you need to be on the price, and this will affect your bottom line because in a couple months, not 6 months, just in a couple months, maybe even in a few weeks, you will realize that you're not doing the right rate at which you need to go down the road with. Okay? And if you don't take the steps that I'm about to talk about, there will be consequences, and the consequences will be the shuttering of your trucking company. Okay? So obviously, the first couple things that you do need to do is you do need to go out there and get yourself your business plan set up. Okay? So you have to sit down. So not think about it and just have it in your head and kind of in one ear, out the other, or kind of just forget about what you need to do. You need to have an actual business plan. You need to look at things like how far are you willing to go from the city in which your trucks are operating from. Okay, if you're a trucking company out of Chicago, Illinois, for example, you need to sit down and talk about with your business partners, if there's more than one of you, where do you want to go? Do you want to stay in Chicago? Do you want to stay in Illinois? Do you want to stay in and around that southern Lake Michigan area? Maybe northern Indiana, western Michigan, northern Illinois, eastern Wisconsin, for example, and just stay around that horseshoe shape right there. Or do you want to do regional, further regional? Okay, so going maybe just Midwest wise, or maybe you want to stay only from Chicago going eastward, or from Chicago you want to focus on just going westward. You have to come up with this plan. We as human beings, if we come up with plans like this, we tend to achieve these plans. But when we don't, this is where we run into problems, where we don't have a solidified plan of what we want to do with our trucks. You also want to sit down and talk about what kind of trailers you want to use. Do you want to go down the route of having dry vans? Do you want to go down the route of having reefers, step decks, flatbeds? Maybe you want to run a fleet of cargo vans, sprinter vans. There's a gentleman I know out of St. Louis. He started with his dad. They only ran one sprinter. They're up to now over 400 drivers, 400 sprinter and cargo van units. You know, another guy that I know, he runs a straight truck company out of Massachusetts. Very difficult area to get out of. But he has set up a business plan so he can actually have a lucrative business. Another gentleman out of upstate New York, from Utica, New York. He's got a business of semi trucks, of big trucks with 53-foot dry vans and reefers. And he's the upstate guy. So he's going Utica, Syracuse, Albany, New York, Buffalo, Rochester, and he's just going to New York City, the New York City area, New Jersey, if you want to include that in New York City, Philadelphia, and that's what he focuses on. Sometimes they'll venture down to North Carolina, South Carolina for a couple customers, but he has a plan of where he wants to go with his units, where he wants to send his trucks. So the business plan is very important in trucking. If you want to make $1 million a month revenue generating trucking company or more, you have to have a plan. It cannot be you throwing things at a wall and seeing what sticks. Okay? Another thing you have to look at is all the authorities and permits that are needed to run a trucking company. Now, in this video, I will not get into the complete details of what all the trucking permits are that are needed, but you can always reach out to me and we can have a discussion about what that looks like. But that is very important for you to look at. Even more important, or equally important, would be your insurance. Trucking commercial insurance is expensive. In 2024, it is expensive. Every year we seem to have a percentage increase. For some states, it's 1%. Others, it's 15%. For us in Ontario, Canada, we've seen in recent years 25% increases in insurance per truck, per policy, whatever you want to look at it. Okay? So if you want, you can actually go to a bunch of different insurance companies, try to avoid Progressive. Please try to, this is not going to be a video about dissing Progressive, but try to avoid them. They're horrendous. They will insure anybody, but they are horrendous when it comes to actually providing the service itself of insurance. But you need to get on your policy, making sure that you have your general liability, your auto liability, and of course your cargo coverage. At least those three things on your policies. Okay? In addition to this, once you've gotten that set up, the business registration set up, getting incorporated or going down the LLC route, once you have all of that stuff set up, and you can always reach out to me if you want the entire list of what all those permits and authorities look like. We can even help you with the permitting if that is something you would like us to do. Or you can go down it yourself, down the avenue yourself. But how we did it is we went initially, once everything was set up and we're ready to go, where we can take a load today, we went to the local shippers in our city and physically walked in and talked to them. Physically walked in and talked to them about what kind of loads they have and if we can help them. It is true, shippers, the mega shippers, won't be giving you freight of high volume right off the bat. Okay? They're not going to do it. But what you can do is that should not be a barrier for you to go and talk to them. You should go and have a discussion with the director of transportation, director of logistics, supply chain manager, logistics coordinator, shipping manager, shipping coordinator, someone along those lines. Or if the owner of the smaller mom and pop shop, tool and die company or facility is available, have a sit down with them and explain to them who you are. Let them know you're local, you're looking for local and regional work to begin off. And then, if they have needs to send you further, you can always and are willing always to adjust your business to fit their needs as well. Okay? Albeit making sure that you are also profitable at the end of the equation. And it is possible for both sides of the equation to be satisfied with the transaction and the relational or relationship transaction that happens from there on out. So going to your local shippers is a good first step to try to get your trucks moving. Another step you can take is getting yourself access to a load board. Don't depend just on load boards. That's a big no. You will run your trucking company into the ground if you think you can just survive off of spot rates and the ups and downs of, supply and demand economics in North America. You have to have relationships. But if you go on load board, use load boards as directories. Use load boards as search engines. Use load boards as a way to build relationships with legitimate, actual, non-scam brokers on there, freight brokers. You can do a very good job for yourself in running your trucking company and building it. I have taken a lot of those relationships from load boards, translated them over to real life via phone, right? Text messages, Telegram messages, WhatsApp, Viber, SMS, whatever that may look like. Okay, so instead of those freight brokers posting loads on load boards, they would come to me and actually tell me, "Hey, bro, you got an option for this?" And I was always willing to help them out, and they were always willing to help me out. It was a win-win situation. But using load boards in that respect is a really in that way is a really good way for you to grow your trucking business. I have built a lot of relationships even as a freight broker with trucking companies that have taken these steps. Called me, "Hey, I don't have a truck in the area today. I do see you have a posting from Chicago to Dallas, for example, or Detroit, Michigan to El Paso, Texas. We don't have a truck today, but this is a lane that we service often. Or we don't have a truck today for this lane that you've posted, but we are very good at servicing the Midwest, going from Detroit, Michigan and coming back to Detroit, Michigan. So how can we help each other?" Right? And building those stepping stones, those foundational blocks for that relationship will take you a long way in building a successful trucking business. Okay? In addition to this, you do have to, in the first 30 to 45 days, once you understand what your costs look like to operate your truck or trucks, understand your operating costs. It's very important. It's probably the most important thing into you being lucrative, into you being profitable. Because this will set precedents and set a rate at which you understand in your heart of hearts and in the analytics of your company that there is no way for you to take a load below this rate. I understand sometimes you may do a favor for a shipper once in a while, or a favor for a broker once in a while. Brokers that will remember the favor and return it at some point down the line. Okay? But you are not a charity, you are not a fundraiser, so you are not in this business to run around the North American continent, both USA and Canada and respectively Mexico, for free. Okay, so for you have to know what is it that you have to pay for monthly, and then the variable stuff that happens month over month. Okay, so once you understand your operating costs, you have solidified your understanding of what you're going to need as a price to make your company profitable. And trust me, loads do exist. $3 a mile, $4 a mile, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay? Any broker that comes into your life and tells you you're crazy for asking for $3 a mile, don't listen to that. Okay? That's them trying to make enlarged profit margins by beating you down on the rate. And that is not a recipe for a relationship. Okay? So please understand your operating costs in that respect. And of course, safety and compliance are very important. So running your trucking company, remaining profitable, and running it the right way, and understanding what your safety and compliance procedures look like, and what your safety and compliance rules are like, both from a federal perspective, state perspective, provincial perspective, and respectively inside of your company as well. Okay? And safety is important. Making sure that the hours of service are correct, making sure that pre-trips are done, pre-trip inspections on your trucks are done, making sure that preventative maintenance is done. Using tools such as, for example, Samsara to look at the telematics of your trucks and see what kind of errors are popping up in your engine for mechanics to take a look at, so you can prevent, breakdowns right on the interstate. There are tools available out there, technological tools that will help you do your job properly. Samsara would be a good tool to use. There are many other telematic tools that you can use both for tracking your hours of service, but also doing the preventative maintenance kind of reports for yourself as well, or malfunctions that may happen. In addition to this, using technology as a way forward to make yourself more efficient. So getting the right type of transportation management system for your trucking company, using the right type of tracking or visibility tool set up for your truckers, so that way they're not distracted when they're behind the wheel, but you are servicing your customers and upholding that customer service level for communication of as close to 100% as humanly possible. And technology can be there to assist you in that process. Okay? And in addition to this, on the hiring front, whoever you hire, just make sure that in the heart of hearts, you're hiring someone that is of use for you, someone that you trust with your life and your business. Okay? If you have in your gut feeling that this person isn't the right fit, sure, do your analysis, take a look at it. But at the end of the day, if that gut feeling doesn't go away, that pit in your stomach that you don't trust this individual, don't hire this individual. And on the trucking side of things, don't get overconfident too quickly. What I mean by that is, don't grow too quickly. This is a marathon. It is not a race. This is something you're building for two different reasons. One could be that you are trying to, scale the business, grow it for a few years, a decade, a couple decades, flip it or sell it and make a good profit off of the sale of your company. Or the other path may be that you are trying to build a generational business that you want to pass off down to your kids or their kids, for example. So make it a family run, generation to generation business. Either path that may look like, it is still a marathon and not a race. If you go into it with the mentality that this is a race, you're going to do what a lot of trucking companies did in 2021. They saw money symbols because the rates were super good. They got into it. They spent a lot of cash to get into the business. They made some money, but then the market flipped and they weren't prepared for it because they grew too quickly. They thought the $7 a mile, $15 a mile loads were gonna last forever, and that didn't happen. That did not translate into reality. So please make sure that you do the right thing in that manner. So guys, in summary, this is a marathon, not a race. Okay? And make sure that you have a business plan. You know your authorities, what they look like, your permits, your insurance. Make sure you go to your local shippers, your regional shippers, grow load board relationships, hire people you trust, understand your operating costs, look at your safety and compliance as a necessity to your business, and try to use technology as much as you possibly can to make your business efficient, not to replace your drivers or replace your dispatchers, but to make your business more efficient. Okay? And with that being said, if you like this video and found it useful, please give it a like, a share, and a comment. It helps out more than you know. And looking forward to any kind of comments or discussions you may have in the comments below. So thank you very much.